I would like to build here. It's a sort of quite a large job site. It's going to be over a period of time. I just want to add to it. So I'll make a series of recordings concerning the language, the sounds, and their meanings and their use. In discourse, how to speak in a way that people hear. I'm going to illustrate it by the use of what we in English call the letter U, but what I mean by the sound A, as in up. And I'm going to give a few words associated with it, lead with it. Up, university. Well, it's spelt with an R, but it's not. Interestingly, it's not sounded that way, is it? It's not an university or it's a university. I wonder if it should be an university. Now that might sound very strange. Let me just leave that for a sec. Uncertainty. But since I'm close to it, let me include the y, not just a. University, universal. You. Yes. Yet. Yellow. Your. Yeshua. That's the possibly the it's the Hebrew name for Joshua, Yeshua, and Jesus. It's the Hebrew name for Jesus, right? Jesus is the Greek name, but the Greek name, the J, has the relationship of justice. Also jester and joust, but generous too, and joke, not to mention joy, of course. Now, I'm not developed at this stage in really knowing what the clusters indicate, or may indicate, about the sounds, the clusters of words around that a given sound, be it a, ya, j. But there's a commonality in meaning that I'm trying to get to, that the sounds have meanings. And the words are obviously made up of sounds in the way we use them, communicate them. Although we've had a great deal of communications not by sound but simply by written word. And given the way we're spelling, whether it's a or y, the letter U or the letter Y, in that dimension of the written word, it is the spelling that is carrying the connotation, the meaning, the letters used become part of the indication of what we mean and what's being transferred from one person, one mind to another. So we might think of the sound y in university, but because it's spelt with a U, it has the association with the sound, and therefore its meaning as well. So the Y has its own meaning, but when it's pronounced as a it's associated with the meaning. Look, I'm feeling my way here. I'm just exploring. Hold with me if you find it to your liking. Well, at the minute I've got a sort of association between and ya. You know, we've got up and you and university and uncertainty. Understanding. In fact, the prefix un, which we take to mean a reversal of something, as in, for instance, undressed is to be the reverse of dressed. Understand is almost to take apart the standing and see what it's made of, to grasp the whole of the thing. Yeah, is definitely associated with you, your, and yes. What's yesterday? The affirmation of what has been. What you are is your yesterday's effect on today, isn't it? And it occurs to me, signal, indicating what we're going to do. It's a sign. Sundry, the sort of variety of things available. Simple. It's handleable for inputs to a future. It's so simple. Since, coming as a consequence of. There's a movement in the S, isn't there? The snake goes, it's threatening something. Simple, isn't it? So it seems to seem as if something is coming to you in a certain way. Solitary, staying with being solo. Solitary, sultry, again, that ongoing continuity, sound, sound tends to be ongoing. It's not a blast or an explosion, but a sound is a continual presence. In fact, the plural sound suggests many, not just a one-off, some continuity, some flow of, a stream. Is establishment, isn't it? It's a complete pause and affirmation of something significant, a being. Perhaps in the word Amen. Men. And men too. Something you can rely on, hopefully. Strength, the male. And what happens when things come in the male? The male is the message, information that you need to rely on and know. The mail. That's why, we have to open our mail, don't we? We think, there's something, could be important, it could be very much something we're relying on here. Better find out what it is quickly. And can I mention, again, I'm going to establish it. I'm going to mention it here as relevant and something worth recognizing the possible significance of such. Better make mention of this. To make is something that's important enough to bring into existence. We're pondering, aren't we? What to make, what is our establishment meant? What does this mean? What was meant by, in other words, firmly established, to be understood, therefore, it's something to be reckoned with. Mum. Wow. Mum is the establishment of life, isn't she? Holding the warmth and kindness and care that life so needs, protection, to mother, to mould. What is the word mould in that case? Well, it's to give the shape to, the manifestation of, to meter something out, a measuring. Again, something of its establishment and its being. Monstrous. It's enormous being. It's a monster. A mouse probably means its establishment of tininess. Mouse. Marshall. Oh, well, goodness. Got to reckon with him, haven't you? Field Marshal. Mars. War. Very in your face It's established, isn't it? War, Mars, master has to have established it, isn't it? I've mastered it. So I've gone through a few sounds here. It's not held by English being like confluence, I don't know, no, I don't know, it's come from many languages, hasn't it? And they're using letters for sounds in different ways, and that's why the spelling in English and the reading is so problematic to learn. Instead of a nice, consistent one-to-one sound and letter match in its writing. But I think increasingly we'll move away from spelling to just sounds. Because of our technology now, we don't have to write, we can dictate it like I'm doing here. I'm not writing any longer, I'm just dictating. And I give the titles to these recordings in phonetic form because sounds is something I've been focusing on in a sense for some time. I'm helped greatly by the thoughts of Rudolf Steiner in this regard, although I don't seem to, perhaps because he's German and 100 years ago, the sounds are meaning something a bit different to him as they do to me in my experience, but perhaps that's so with all of us and why we're not communicating too well. I give a set of sounds and it means something and associates differently in your mind to how it associates in mine. And the result is I've sent a message, but it's been received differently to what I actually meant to send. But this may add to the amazing depth of our experience of living, in that you therefore react, and I have made unwittingly a statement to you that leads you in a rather different direction to what I anticipated I was doing. So I say, hear me, which might in your understanding mean force in some way, whereas I meant opportunity. What you hear you can use. So I say history and mean reflection on what may have been, but you hear history as some hard, tangible fact that's certain truth. So you hear something that means more like constraint, dominance. History is history. Whereas I hear history is understanding, histrionic, creative. It's our view of, and there are many views of, any incident that we say is now in the past. Because in some ways it's not in the past, it's in the present, because you are now. It's significant to you in the present, and therefore it has a presence. And in that sense, history, which is not necessarily historic fact, can have a tremendous presence. You know, whether Jesus lived in the flesh or not is almost irrelevant to his presence in affecting how we live now and enter into life eternal, indeed. So meaning in not being conveyed perfectly results in astonishing variety in this universe. And what we might call misunderstanding, but sometimes results in astonishing creativity of understanding that we wouldn't have otherwise had. Because I combine my misunderstanding, if you like, of your statement with my present understanding and come up with something as a consequence that neither you or I would have anticipated before you spoke. Wow, that's interesting. Let me pause. So, and when I say so, get the two sounds in there, s and o. S leading to and o, some exclamation leading to something significant, an exclamation. So, I would like to establish why I've called this recording series com, and then numbered it 1, 2, 3, etc. K, O, M. M is something's been established. O, of, on. Possibly open, because the spelling is with an O, letter O. And therefore open is associated with it. K is definitely can. Gives a possibility, an enabling. K, kept. It can be held. It is held. It's something that can be. K, car, K. Amazement. Is definitely amazement. Or, Yah, Yahweh, Yahweh. It's worship, God, The association with the letter, of course, common is A, the first letter of the alphabet, even though the sound of A is A. Perhaps not the Y, just the A. And by letter association again, or, to be in or, which is phonetically I'm spelling A-U, as in August. So coming back to communication, goodness, there's two C's in there, there's an A in there, sh, close to the association of sir, because it's spelled with two letters, SH, using the S sound in there, letter, rather. Com. One holds the M sound, don't you? Pondering, created of some permanence is what means, as in unication, yeah. We've seen what you means, haven't we? Unication, n is a negation in there. Communication. Wow. Shun is not just shunting, snow, snore, shiver, shall, should, ship, sail, I immediately think of ship, shore, seashore. And to be sure, sûr, that's more like a sûr, but sh will do, sure. To send, getting back to the S. Communication, sh. Station. Stay, of course, means to stop. Shun. As opposed to n instead of m, suggests a pondering but a negation of, a stopping. Shun, attention. Yoh. Move towards a halt. A negation of the moving, in fact. A stillness. Tension. You're held in suspension, aren't you? As opposed to an ongoing holding in ponderousness. Yes. N is a finality of attention. It's n, a blank, but held. Ready to receive. Going to pause there, have a rest. A particular instance, reflection that I'm thinking of at the minute is the word sulfur. Now, I'm going to approach this in a slightly different way, I think, I'm not sure. But sol, as in solar, sol, sun, s, o, on, offer, v, sol, f, fire, fine, fierce, foreign, forgery, freak, forbidding, phony. But anyway, probably fire. What do you think of with friend? Ah, you could be thinking friend, couldn't you? Foe. Oh, could be either. Never thought. Offer, could be growling, could be pondering, not sure what's coming next, heavy vibration, offer, sulfur, sun, fire. Well, that's a good description of this particular element, isn't it? Is it sulfur like potassium you can throw on water and it's pretty volatile, pretty fierce? Sunfire on the water. Sunfire, sulfur. But of course you might not think of soul as in terms now of being solar. You might think of it more as in terms of being solo. Though even that, I mean, the sun, solitary sunshine in tropical areas. We think of the sun as moving on its own across the sky, solo, solitary, the sun. There's no equal to it in our sky, in our perception of the sky, you see. The sun, which is possibly why what we term primitive people worship the sun. It wasn't so primitive, was it? I mean, it's the source of plant energy, what's it in the plant that takes the sunlight and converts it to sugar? Chlorophyll, is it? Astonishing behaviour in sunlight. If we didn't do that, we would be dead. Well, we would never have lived. I mean, sugar, we need energy. We burn up this carbon compound, and the energy from it, we drive the body. We power the body with this solar energy. We're God's solar batteries, aren't we? Solar power. We're powered by sunlight. Yeah. It's basically, I think, our one source of energy. And we're wondering, aren't we, if in some sense, the energy of our civilization shouldn't be, from burning rubbish and carbon and or whatever else we do. Perhaps it should be solar entirely. Solar from sun. Solar power. Solar-powered civilization, not coal or oil or fossil fuel power. No, I mean, there are alternatives, but I mean, well, I don't know if there are any. The energy from the water power, and wave power and wind power, it's all to do with the variation in temperature that's caused by, well, if we weren't near the sun, everything would be so solid, we wouldn't be experiencing much energy at all, would we? We'd be in a very cold part of space, and much of space seems to be very cold. A long way too far from any sun, any star. So we have, in the past, worshipped the sun, apparently. And presumably some people still do. And I should confess, I sunbathe. I sunbathe because I think it's a good way of a vegan getting vitamin D. And we seem to need vitamin D, which we can get from sunlight, I think. Is it? You would know better than me, perhaps, but is it the action of sunlight on the cholesterol? Most of the cholesterol in the body is manufactured by the body, I understand to be the case. And that near the skin surface there, in the presence of sunlight, seems to generate vitamin D. Well, that's the understanding, I think. And it's my understanding. But mind you, I just enjoy sunbathing, so not too much though. Too much and you burn. We don't want too much cancerous stuff for the body to have to cope with, the immune system. And we don't want too little, so that the immune system's not protected and supported by the vitamin D that it needs. And so I sunbathe about half an hour, I suppose, turning around a bit. Don't want to burn any of the body, dear. When it's available. And make sure it's not too much for the skin, and not too little for the immune system. How'd I get onto that? From the word sulfur. Can't see the connection, Marshall. No, hang on a minute. Well, sulfur is very active, isn't it? Sunfire. But and used in moderation by God, generates the very life itself, our immune system, and protection from evil. So he's an awesome God, but at the same time, he's our dad, and chooses to give us just the amount of his care and presence that's ideal for us to come to maturity. Oh, I like that. I'm very pleased with that interpretation. Thank you, Heavenly Father.